Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette, and we're so glad that you're with us today to stay curious. June 20th, 2023, and wow, look at this green screen behind me. This is a quite extraordinary and unusual ice halo formation up in Finland. A man named Rayan Izayan took this picture. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. We've got a Delta Heavy that's going to be launching about 3:30 in the morning. Got to lose some sleep for that, Marty, don't we?
Well, you do.
Well, you do. He's seen that Saturn V roar off the pad 8 or 10 times. And then we got 5 astronaut birthdays. Elon Ramon would have been 68 years old today, the Israeli astronaut who lost his life in the, of course, Columbia reentry disaster. And but we're going to talk about 4 other shuttle astronauts and some about the shuttles of June. And Marty sent me a newspaper clipping about Enceladus, a moon of Saturn, is spewing forth geysers out of its crust. And this has been recorded by the Cassini spacecraft years ago. Finally, they're confirming that it has all the elements of life in these geysers on a far, far away moon orbiting Saturn. Stay curious. I know exactly what that life looks like, okay? And I'll show you even a picture of it. So, well, we got Selvin Trotter, our bookkeeper, and much more than that here at the American Space Museum helping us out today. Welcome to the Streamlabs board there, Selvin. And fingers are crossed that we don't have some of the gremlins that have been popping up here. But as I click the eye, I just want to say it's my privilege to be at Astronomy on Tap in Orlando tonight, where I'm going to be one of the featured speaker and do my astronomical parody Starry Night Live that I've done for over 30 years. Had a lot of fun with this in the astronomy community. Poke fun at a lot of things, tongue-in-cheek, and things like the discovery of the Hubble telescope instead of the Hubble. And we've done everything from Starnack to the redneck astronomer Terry Lupusworthy and so forth and so on. So thank you, the Orlando on Tap, for inviting me there. And I believe it's going to be on YouTube, not live, I don't think, but it might be. Check out Orlando on Tap. Astronomy community all over America do this, so catch it at your nearby, I guess, brewery, or maybe they have it at some museums too. Oh, that blew my cover there, didn't we? W.O. Brown is 100 years old, and he's going to be on Stay Curious tomorrow. I've known this gentleman for several years. He's very informative and lucid. Excuse me there. Still getting over my cold there. Just got the cough left. Here's a little rocket fuel to wash it down. W.O. Brown. You're going to enjoy him. He's got an amazing story to tell about his personal involvement in the Cuban Missile Crisis. So, and then tonight, holy cow, that is the Falcon, not the Falcon Heavy, the Delta IV Heavy with the 2 strap-on fueled boosters on it that's going to take a National Reconnaissance top secret spy satellite to orbit. And we're going to hopefully get some pictures from our good buddy Carlton Bailey. I know Carlton's already probably out there. It's let's see, what time is it? 3:29 a.m. All right, but this is the next to the last, the penultimate flight of a Delta IV rocket. The last one will be, I think, later this year, and then they will segue, they being United Launch Alliance, will be segue into their Vulcan rocket instead of this Delta. But just, oh man, this is one heck of a thing to lift off. Look at it there with those 3 columns of gigantic engines there. So I'm going to lose some sleep over that and hopefully bring you a streak shot from somewhere. Not sure where I'm going to watch it from. So, all right. Well, we have got as our green screen behind here this gorgeous phenomenon there. Let me take that off a minute and give you that all of the luminous forms in this picture are caused by sunlight shining through ice crystals in the clouds. This is called a perihelic circle, a full 360 degrees. This is by Ryan Elzen, who works in Finland as an aurora guide up there. Maybe he gave you your tour guide up there, Hazel Banks, if you're watching. I know she's been up in Finland and seen the aurora borealis up there, which is, of course, auroras caused by particles from the sun entering the Earth's atmosphere. This is all caused by ice crystals in the Earth's atmosphere, and these halos are quite exceptional. Let's see, what other details about this? Well, here they've actually named these halos. All right, as I go to there. All right, so there's what you see. And what is really weird is this Wegener arc in the upper right is an arc up there that's faintly visible. That's supposed to be very super rare. So all of this, particularly that sundog perihelion coming out at the corners there, and it's just an amazing, incredible photograph by this aurora tour guide in Finland, and I wanted to share that with you. So there we have it, and let's hit to the birthdays. All right, got so many birthdays, I gotta wear my hat. All right, there's my birthday hat there, gold, just like the astronaut pin I have up there. Okay, celebrating the birthday. So who's got a birthday today? Well, who doesn't? Marty and Selvin. Take off our Stay Curious banner up there just a second for me, guys, there. And we see that born today is Ulf Merhold, the German that's been to space 3 times. All right, thank you, Selvin. And he was born in 1941 in Gritz, Germany. Jim Buckley, born in Fargo, North Dakota. And Jim was born 78 years ago. And Gary Payton, he's 75 today. There he is, the lower left-hand corner. Rock Island, Illinois is his hometown. And Brian Duffy, that's my birth year there. He just turned big 7-0 from Boston, Massachusetts. So, like I mentioned, Elon Ramon, the first Israeli astronaut who perished in the 2003 Columbia Shuttle disaster, would have been 68 years old today. So, let's look at these astronaut birthdays up close. After all, they're in your community. There's Ulf Merhold a couple years ago. After all, they're in your communities doing great things. Over 350 astronauts rode our beautiful space shuttles in the 30-year anniversary. And there we've got Don't Touch the Keys. Did it happen? Okay. Well, we're gonna be in pause here just for a second until our computer catches up with itself, a little anomaly that we've had there. But tell you about Ulf. He flew to orbit on STS-9 in 1983, and then STS-42, and then he took a Soyuz trip to space, all right? And I think he went to the Mir space station. He became the first non-American to fly on the space shuttle in November of 1983. The early days of the shuttle. So he's one of the early astronauts. He flew up there without a spacesuit, just that blue flight suit. And then STS-42, he certainly wore the pumpkin suits up there. He's been very involved in the space labs that went to orbit, executing 72 highly sophisticated experiments up there. So happy 82 years old he is there, Marty, so with the shuttle in front of him. So I don't think our anomaly's cleared up here yet. No? Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you, Jim Buckley was born June 20th, 1945 in Fargo, North Dakota. I think he's the only North Dakota astronaut. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. 4 space flights, 20 days in space. Wish I could show his picture there. But he was a mission specialist on 51C and 61A early in the program, 1985. And then he flew in 1989 on 29 and STS-48 in 1991. And he is in the Hall of Fame, tell you there. So still not good, huh, gentlemen?
Yep.
I just saw it flash there. We have an anomaly that happens that we can't go forward on uh, our slides.
Okay. We have 3 astronauts from North Dakota, Mark.
There are.
Yeah. James Belushi, Richard Hebe, and Anthony Tony England.
Hebe in England are from now. Tony
Yeah.
England waited 20-some years to fly to space. That's interesting. So thanks for looking that up, Marty, as we're killing time here. Apologize for this delay, but please stay with us as we takes a few minutes to work through this gremlin that we have no idea what it is. And if somebody is a Streamlabs technician out there, please get a hold of us, because we would love to know what's going on. And our Trekkie Techie's got a great job. She's not always able to research these things for us, but it's been a little bit of a test here, as you don't see anything there, but we do here that doesn't allow us to go forward. And if we hit a key, it'll shut the whole thing down. And Marty, I see it happening in the Streamlabs tray there.
Yep.
On there. And what in the world is happening? Merbold there, 50 Days in Space, the gentleman we're looking at. And I wish I had my Wikipedia biography of him there, but anyway, the other astronauts born, Gary Payton, we're going to talk, you're going to see his picture in a minute, born in Rock Island. I've got this on Facebook, by the way. Gary Payton's a Purdue-naut, all right, and he's born in Rock Island, Illinois. So he went to school in Indiana. He's a pilot. Gary Payton later became, I think he was over Johnson Space Center for many years. And then Brian Duffy, born June 20, 1953 in Boston. 4 space flights for Duffy. 2 as a pilot, 2 as a commander. So 40 days in space. So we got 3 pilots and commanders here. Let's see, we got, so what? We're good? All right. There's Mervold. There he is in his pumpkin suit when he went up in space on 42. There's Buckley, B-U-C-H-L-I, Buchley or Buckley. James Frederick Buckley, born in Fargo, North Dakota, 4 space flights. He is inducted. Okay, it happened again. And so he's inducted into the Hall of Fame here at Kennedy Space Center as we're ratcheting through these anomalies. So as we're kind of looking at this behind me here, this beautiful arc, you can see atmospheric phenomenon anytime. There's a rainbow right over my head. All of this is in the Earth's atmosphere, okay? And the crystals are certain types of crystals that actually are the same size and shape. When you see a halo around the moon, that's caused by rectangular type crystals that are beveled on the edges. That's the unique thing of these crystals, is light's going through them as they're going through him and Jim Buckley there, as we're still waiting for this anomaly to clear up on our Streamlabs program. I'm serious. Anybody knows about Streamlabs? We have little flashes happening that delays the program. We don't know if it's in our computer, in the internet lines, or just our dumb luck. So, but a little more about atmospheric phenomenon is you can commonly see rings around the sun and the moon during a transition from high temperatures to low temperatures. That's bringing in the colder ice crystals, and they form about 30 miles up in the sky, all right? Airplanes fly about 5 miles up in the air, and this type of phenomenon is going on at 20 to 30 miles up in the air. So, and I love seeing the rings around the moon, and some of the ancient sayings about that was count the stars inside the rings, and that'll give you how many days till it rains, or put in your significant event in there. Marty, who we've got watching and during this delay with us, please? You can say it on the microphone there.
Yeah, we have Doug Forrest in L.A., Chris Calley up in Connecticut, and Carlton Bailey in Cocoa, Dave Stange in, I forget where he said he's
Up in Michigan.
Yeah, I know Michigan, but he gave us Macomb, Michigan, and Robert Lauren in Scotland, and Jonathan Ward just said hello.
Hey, Jonathan Ward.
In fact, Jonathan said, "Mark, I think it's your hat that's causing the glitches."
Well, thank you, Jonathan. Jonathan's a great friend of the museum. Before I was here, he's written 4 books. His last one is on astronaut Eileen Collins and returning Columbia with Mike Leinbach, the launch director, was before that. And then he did 2 books about the Cape. So glad that you're on land. He does many things, many talents. Jonathan Ward, if you book a Viking cruise, I believe he's a Viking cruise is what he does astronomy lectures on. And appreciate you posting your fun trips on there with your wife. But we've got a lot of amateur astronomers watching today too. And as we're enduring another painful session, we've had 2 clear Scott-free days, Marty, and then it's happening today. And I'd like to move on here a little bit, get through these birthdays, and we're going to talk about 2 space shuttles of June. One launched today that did the bedrock of science that's going on in the International Space Station. That'd be an STS-78 in 1996. Big crew of 7 on that. And I can't wait to tell you about the mission logo. Has a lot of what they call Easter eggs or hidden meanings in it, in there. And of course, 40 years ago today, we have Sally Ride and Bob Crippen orbiting the Earth with 3 more astronauts. This was the Norm Thagard and John Fabian are on there on that mission. And Rick Houck is the pilot on there, soon to be a commander. 40 years ago, Bob Crippen became the 2nd person to fly the space shuttle after the dramatic STS-1 mission of 1983. He was back up in, 1981, pardon me. He was back up in space 2 years later. So there we got, let's go backwards. There's Jim Buckley. I'm not sure if it's Buckley or going to have to ask our astronaut wrangler how you pronounce his name. I know Nick Thomas will know. And I'll bet Jonathan Ward knows too. There's Gary Payton in the blue suit that they wore before Challenger. And he later was over Johnson Space Center. And of course, we're wishing him a happy 75th birthday today. And Brian Duffy's the big 7-0. There he is, twice a pilot, twice a commander, and real honor to be in the Hall of Fame up there. The astronauts' image has been put in lucite and hanging up at the Astronaut Hall of Fame, which is a beautiful display there with Alan Shepard's statue in the middle of that. So, and of course, Elon Ramon would have been 68 years ago, a national hero in Israel, still the only Israeli to fly to space. And we celebrate him every chance we can. Well, let's get to the shuttles of June. 11 beautiful shuttles in the month of June. We flew 68 crewmen, 15 of them were women. Okay, 2 women repeated twice, Baker and Dunbar, Bonnie Dunbar and Ellen Baker, but there was 15 tickets punched by women on those 11 shuttles. 116 days in space, some significant missions there. Sally Ride, STS-7 in the middle, STS-4 with Ken Mattingly and Hartsfield, Henry Hartsfield. You can't underestimate what an important mission that was, the final 4th trip to space by Columbia, final test mission officially. And then STS-5 was, they took the ejection seats out and flew a crew of 4 or 5, if I look up my shuttle here. Let me get that right on my scroll. My shuttle scroll had, yes, Brand, Overmeyer, Lenore, and Allen on it. And then the first 5 people was STS-7. They flew 4 on STS-6. So this mission 40 years ago with Crippen, Houck, Ride, Fabian, and Thagard was the first 5-person mission by America on there. So, well, let's look at a chart that we put together. Karen Conklin, my executive director, in the center there, that's STS-8, that should be 78. All right. But you look at the date on the bottom is the 20th, all right, and that is the launch of STS-8. But landing was STS-111, all right, 117, and is in space, 116 is in space. Where's my chart for that? Trying to strain my eyes here as I'm getting going here after our anomalies. Yeah, that is actually STS-78 there in red. But we have in space 117 put solar arrays on the ISS in 2007. 51G deployed 3 satellites and had Shannon Lucid and the first Prince, Al Saad, on board, crew of 7 in 85. STS-7 is right, and then 78 and 96. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 shuttles in space history orbiting Earth, and tomorrow we launch STS-57 in space, which is Duffy's on that. Okay, birthday boy Duffy. I was looking to see who was in space on this time. So birthday boy Duffy went to space the day after his birthday. So how cool would that be? So a little chart thing. I love these type of things to look at space history. So hope that you do too, as we look a little deeper into our missions of the month and go to a beautiful Challenger on the pad by our good friend Tom Usiak. Hey Tommy, got to use that picture again, and there we have another anomaly that's going to hold us up again. So this is very frustrating, but I'll persevere as we hope that you hang on so you can find out the type of life that I think's on Enceladus. All right, STS-7 was orbiting the Earth 40 years ago. And but let me talk about STS-78. That was a Life and Microgravity Science Lab, LMS. 5 space agencies were involved in STS-78. ESA, the French Space Agency, Canada Space Agency, and the Italian Space Agency, along with research scientists from 10 countries. So in 1996, this was a truly groundbreaking mission. STS-78 was in Columbia, that laid the bedrock for what's happening today on the International Space Station here in 2023. So that's 27 years ago. And STS-78 was the first time researchers collected muscle tissue biopsy samples, both before and after from the crew, all right? So the crew were their own guinea pig. They had an MRI scan up there in this space lab. Magnetic resonance imaging is what that means. They did the first ever study of sleep cycles, of the 24-hour circadian rhythms, and task performance in microgravity. And during 2 72-hour time blocks, the crew completed questionnaires and measured such functions as eye movement and muscle activity during sleep. So a lot of, like I said, seminal work on the human body of how it adapts to space on this mission that lasted almost 17 days. STS-78 was one of the longest shuttle missions at 78 days. It didn't land until July. I was looking at July 6th it landed in there. So a lot of microgravity experiments. They tried to find applications for liquid column spray used in inkjet printing back in 1997, way back last century in 1997. So, and the astronauts that flew on that was Terry Hendricks, his 4th and last flight. Kevin Kegel, his 2nd flight as a pilot. He became a commander on 2 more flights. Richard Linehan, was his first flight. Susan Helms, who later became a general and over the command of the 45th Space Wing. I think she had 5 trips to space. It was her third flight. Charles Brady, Jacques Favier of France, their only space flights, and Robert Thirsk of the Canadian Space Agency. And we heard Robert Thirsk out at the Space Center, I think, Marty.
Okay, Mark, go ahead.
Did we hear Thirsk out to Space Center, the Canadian? He was a good talk out there. Well, there's Challenger. We've talked a lot about that. There's the beautiful walkout by Tom Usiak. Okay, and look there's Crip, second trip to space, first trip as a commander, and as pilot, his commander is behind him, John Young, always looking like he was just woke up in there. Sally Ride, John Fabian, waving is Norm Thagard, and of course that's Rick Houck in the back. And there's the beautiful launch. Thank you, Tommy, for sharing these pictures with us here at the American Space Museum. And there is the STS crew in space. We always love showing that picture. John Fabian was just out the Space Center, and he's in the upper right. He's in his 80s, so he had a cane. He was walking around, but happy to talk about his experience. And Norm Thagard, who spent time he was the first American to go to the Mir Space Station on his first space flight there. They had great things to say about Sally Ride and how she wouldn't go anywhere without the crew on public appearances. Well, let's look at this beautiful patch. Maybe it'll freeze up there, Marty, as this is really a art exercise there with Doug Forrest, our pencil artist watching in Los Angeles, and Chris Calley, multimedia artist watching in Concord, Connecticut. Dig this, guys. All the hidden hidden Easter eggs in this. The mission patch links past with present through a patch influenced by Pacific Northwest Native American art. You see that in the upper left, the sun. Central to the design is Columbia, whose shape evokes the image of an eagle, an icon of power and prestige and the national symbol of the United States. The eagle's feathers, representing peace and friendship, symbolize the spirit of international unity. And you see below the windows there, they rarely got to put the number on their patch. In the later missions they did. 78 is on that patch there. And right there beneath the windows, you see the stylized 78, and surrounding the mission number recalls the traditional NASA emblem, the vector around it. And yes, Marty.
I have a question.
Sure.
And I don't know if you have the answer. The OMS engines and the main engines each have different colors.
Marty is so observant. The colored thrust springs at the base of Columbia signify the 5 continents of Earth, united in global cooperation for the advancement of all humankind. Great look, Marty. I've never noticed that on this patch. Nor did I notice the 78 on there before. The patch was designed by artist Bill Heelan, H-E-L-I-N, Helen. H-E-L-I-N, Bill Helen. Maybe Chris and Doug know him. But thank you, Marty, for pointing that out. The Life Science Microgravity Lab is housed in the payload and depicted in a manner reminiscent of totem art. The pulsating sun, a symbol of life, displays 3 crystals. All right, you see that in the orange art there. There's 3 crystals there in the sun's rays, each representing one member of the 3 crystals representing the 3 high-temperature microgravity materials processing facilities. Wow, they had 3 microprocessing labs on there. The constellation Delphinus recalls the dolphin, a friend of the sea explorers, each star representing one member of the international crew, including the alternate payload specialist. Now, they could do a better Delphinus constellation than that, in my opinion. They need to look at a star chart. And I'm sure Bill Heelan did. The color thrust rings at the base that Marty noticed. That is a real cool detail there, Marty. And, of course, the Earth below it there. We see the Florida Peninsula off to the left there beneath the left wing. So what a cool patch. I'll bet you didn't know there's more to patches than meets the eye. And Mission Patch Handbook is the place to get your patches signed by astronauts when you come out to Space Coast. So, well, we're rolling along here with those sun dogs and heliospheres up there in Finland. Let me have a little more rocket fuel. And as we look at the crew up there, I told you about the mission. Very, very cool mission there. Let me increase that. The astronauts on board, as I can get my notes here, my notes that I had. Oh, that I threw on the floor. The crew again, left to right. Oh, I can't tell you left to right there. That's Terrence there on the left is the commander, and Kegel's on the right. Henrik's left, right. You've got the Frenchman there on the outer left. Canadian Thirst is there. And, of course, in the middle is Susan Helms, payload commander. Charles Brady is beside her, as well as the other, Richard Linehan. So, love showing them in space. You know they love those pictures. What an experience in there. And here is the lab, showing you it upside down or right side up. Which one is it? But they took that tunnel back there. It's not a big lab like Space Lab. This is Space Hab, which was a lot smaller and had a long tunnel to get to it from the shuttle's hold there. So do not touch the keys. As for the third time or fourth time, we've got an interruption here. So tomorrow we've got with us 100-year-old W.O. Brown. So if this happens, we can still hear W.O.'s stories, all right, and just not advance the pictures, because that's the only thing that's the problem is. And this is very aggravating, and if anyone knows Streamlabs out there, please, as we're about 30 minutes into what should have been like a 25-minute program here. So coming up next is scientists have been analyzing data from the spacecraft Cassini. Look up Cassini if you want to spend some time just having fun looking at incredible photographs of Saturn's rings and its moons. Do that. The rings are just an incredible feature that you can't get enough of. Cassini orbited Saturn for 12 years. It is now, we crashed it into the surface so it wouldn't disturb anything else. Tommy UCX with Steve Nolte. Hey, Steve. Good to see you, both our friends there. Thank you for enduring our technical issues there. Bill Whiting's watching also. When's Bill coming back? I haven't heard from him, Marty.
No.
I think he's coming back in a week or so.
Well, he wants to come back before the 29th, before they have the 40th anniversary.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a lot of events going on out there. We'll talk about some of the big ticket items they've got out there for the women in space. They got I think it's an 8 or 12 member panel, and it's like $1,500 to be involved in the whole thing. You can go to lunch for $150 though, Bill. All right, that'd be a great birthday gift for Marty, I think. So, well, let's go forward. Oh my God, what are we looking at here? We are looking at a moon about the size of our moon, and I just saw it click and go dark.
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Is that from the lightning storms we're having?
No, it's back again.
This is actually a moon, and what you see, the turquoise, is salt water oozing out of this moon called Enceladus, Enceladus, all right. What is very unusual here, and I won't touch any keys, but I can talk a lot about this here. What's unusual, you don't see any craters, all right. That's the first thing planetary geologists look for, are craters on top of craters to give you how old these features are. These features are maybe within 100,000 years old, certainly within 1,000,000 years old, scientists think, because they are rejuvenating the surface in water that is oozing out of Enceladus and then freezing on this surface that's well below 200 degrees surface. So all these striations you see there, there looks like one crater up there at the very top, all right? And a body like this should be hit by a good-sized crater 3 or 4 times a year by a meteoroid that would cause a crater. Well, what have they found on Enceladus that hints at the building blocks of life? I am glad you asked, because Marty, thank you for sharing this news item that's been out for a while. They have found phosphate, a key building block of life, is found on Saturn's moon Enceladus. An international team, including the University of Washington scientists, found that water on this moon harbors phosphates, which is hard to find. All right. Phosphorus is the least common of the 6 chemical elements considered necessary to all living things. Those other 5 living chemical elements, one is carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and sulfur. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen are easy to figure out because they're common elements in the universe. But sulfur and phosphorus, they found them all on Enceladus. All right. This is the first time that this essential element's been discovered in an ocean beyond the Earth. All right. And yes, because of the data from the Cassini spacecraft that would periodically come close to Enceladus and take fabulous pictures like this from about, probably 1,000 miles away. So they can also confirm ice grains are rich in minerals and complex organic compounds. All right. And the research teams say this ice includes necessary elements that create amino acids, which are important molecular structures for life. So is there life floating in the oceans under Enceladus? We know by the radars and other techniques of Cassini that it is an ocean underneath, okay? And on the top, things well up like this, and in this cutaway showing of an actual picture of what the surface looks like. And they actually flew Cassini so close that it went through one of these geysers, all right, because there's no, the gravity is about 1/6 that of Earth, so these plumes went up to thousands of miles, hundreds of miles high. And the spacecraft gathered data during its 13-year exploration of the huge planet from 2004 to 2007. Cassini was the first spacecraft to orbit Saturn. Before, we just have had pass-bys by the 2 Pioneers and the 2 Voyager spacecrafts. So I saw your sign there, Marty. So again, for the 5th time, don't touch the keys. The researchers studied measurements taken by Cassinis that passed through salt-rich ice grains released into space by geysers found on the southern part of the moon. The geysers were erupting from the ice-covered ocean beneath the surface of Enceladus. A German-led team reported their findings in the journal Nature, which is a science magazine that's one of the Bibles out there, if you will, of that. So JPL designed and built the Cassini spacecraft, Jet Propulsion Lab, of course, just 10 miles from where Doug Forrest is out there taking his lunch break. So this is really exciting news that we've now discovered phosphorus for the first time in our solar system. And with that, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and sulfur are all present on this moon about the size of Earth's moon. So NASA scientists should be in priority mode to find a probe there. They're thinking of sending a probe to Europa, another watery world of Jupiter that's closer by, all right, though we haven't seen geysers spewing out yet. So we're trying to devise a vehicle that could be on the surface and then be submersible through these cracks in the surface of Enceladus. So we'll figure that out one day, but this is an important way to discover life in our solar system, and I think I know what that life looks like. Can we advance it, Marty?
Yeah, go ahead.
One last slide. Here is what life on Enceladus looks like. We predict here on Stay Curious. You got it. Sea monkeys, okay. And there are the little critters there, as you can hatch them, brine shrimp, if you will. Brine shrimp would thrive in the oceans of Enceladus, which are not below zero to be liquid. They would have to be, of course, at least 30 degrees, and probably warmer as it's inside the surface and the globe of Enceladus. So hope that you agree with me that we need to find out, NASA does, if sea monkeys indeed do live on a moon orbiting Saturn. That probe would take about 5 to 6 years to get there. Of course, if it was on the drawing board now, it wouldn't be launched for another 5 years. So good luck with me living long enough to find that out, Marty. So, well, we thank everyone for sticking with us today. Hope that you found the content worthy of your attention as we strive to bring you space history, astronaut birthdays, and things like this beautiful Finland sky the other day, like no one else can in the social media world, particularly on YouTube. So tell your friends to watch us on YouTube. Go out and buy that patch of STS-78. I'm going to look at that in a different light there. That is a gorgeous patch with all kinds of different meaning hidden in that. So Selvin Trotter, thank you for helping us on our Streamlabs job today. Marty, always navigating our troubles there. We will have with you I'm going to be in Orlando on tap at the, where am I going to be? The Oviedo Brewing Company there in Oviedo, about an hour from here. I'll be hightailing out of here. Do spend your time to see Mr. W.O. Brown tomorrow. If you can't do it live, it will be on YouTube. You will not want to miss this gentleman. Truly a space pioneer, bar none. Worked on all of our major programs, and he's got a story about the Cuban Missile Crisis that's going to make your jaw drop, okay? W.O. Brown, we can't wait to have you here to stay curious. So until then, I'm Mark Marquette saying we can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us.